Why do some people kill again and again, not for revenge, not for money, but because something inside them demands it? Serial killers are among the most chilling figures in the human story. They don't just kill once, in a crime of passion or desperation. They kill repeatedly, deliberately, and often with a level of calculation that horrifies investigators and fascinates the public. But here's the deeper question. Why? To you following this story, please do not just follow. Subscribe to keep us motivated. Back to our story. Why do some individuals, ordinary on the surface, evolve into predators who stalk, dominate, and destroy human life over and over again? Tonight, we'll journey into the psychology of serial killers. We'll peel back the mask of normalcy, examine the childhood roots, the twisted fantasies, the cold logic, and even the biology that can play a role. We'll also explore the myths, the realities, and the ultimate truth. Serial killers aren't monsters born from nowhere. They are shaped by trauma, by environment, by personality, and by opportunity. And that's what makes them so terrifying. Almost every serial killer story begins long before the first crime scene. When psychologists and criminologists interview convicted killers, certain themes appear again and again. Abuse, neglect, abandonment, and trauma. Some were beaten relentlessly. Others were sexually abused. Some were raised in homes filled with violence, addiction, or chaos. Still others grew up with emotionally absent parents. No love, no guidance, no stability. The result? Broken attachment. Children who don't learn to bond with caregivers don't easily develop empathy. Instead, they often learn survival through manipulation, secrecy, or aggression. For some, fantasy becomes the escape. A lonely boy beaten by his father may imagine himself powerful, feared, in control. A neglected girl may retreat into private fantasies of revenge or domination. Over years, these private worlds can become more important and more satisfying than reality. And then there are the early warning signs, often called the McDonald Triad: cruelty to animals, fire setting, persistent bedwetting beyond the usual age. Not every child who shows these signs grows up to be violent. But in the histories of many serial killers, at least one of these behaviors is present. Case example: Ed Kemper, later known as the co-ed killer, was emotionally abused by his mother and rejected by both parents. As a boy, he decapitated his sister's dolls, played games about gas chambers and electric chairs, and even killed the family cat. To him, violence was both play and power, long before his first murder. Another case: Aileen Wuornos, one of the rare female serial killers, was abandoned by her parents and sexually abused by her grandfather. By adolescence, she was trading sex for food and shelter. Her early life was chaos, and it paved the way for the violent path she later took. Childhood trauma doesn't create a serial killer. Millions of people suffer abuse and never harm anyone. But when trauma fuses with personality traits like psychopathy, the stage is set for something dangerous. Fantasy is perhaps the most crucial element in serial murder psychology. From childhood or adolescence, many killers develop vivid, repetitive fantasies about power, control, and violence. These fantasies are not fleeting daydreams. They are detailed, rehearsed, and emotionally charged. Over time, fantasy alone isn't enough. The urge to make it real builds, and once acted upon, the fantasy becomes addictive. The process often looks like this. Fantasy builds in private, testing through small behaviors, stalking, breaking into homes, animal cruelty. First murder, clumsy and unplanned. Reinforcement, the emotional rush rewards the behavior. Escalation, crimes become more frequent, more ritualized. Case example: Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, admitted that his crimes grew out of sexual fantasies he nurtured since childhood. He would bind himself for pleasure, then later began targeting women to bring those fantasies to life. His signature binding, torturing, killing was directly tied to his fantasy world. Another, Jeffrey Dahmer, fantasized for years about having complete control over another person. His crimes, drugging victims, creating zombies, keeping body parts, were literal attempts to make fantasy permanent. Fantasy explains why many killers have signatures, personal rituals not necessary for the crime itself. taking trophies, posing bodies, writing taunting letters. These acts serve their inner world, not the murder. So why do they kill? The FBI developed a framework of 4 main categories. Visionary killers, driven by psychosis, hallucinations, or delusions. Example, David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, claimed a demon-possessed dog commanded him to kill. Mission-oriented killers believe they are cleansing society of undesirables. Example, Joseph Paul Franklin targeted interracial couples and minorities, seeing himself as a soldier in a racial war. Hedonistic killers, driven by pleasure. Lust killers, sexual gratification like Ted Bundy. Thrill killers, the adrenaline rush of the hunt. Comfort killers, material gain like Dorothea Puente, who killed tenants for their social security checks. Power and control killers motivated by dominance and sadism. Dennis Rader and John Wayne Gacy fall here. Most killers blend categories. Bundy, for instance, was both lust-driven and power/control-oriented. To kill repeatedly, you must silence your conscience. Serial killers often do this with distorted thinking. Dehumanization, seeing victims as objects, not people. Entitlement, I deserve this. They exist for my pleasure. Blame shifting, they brought it on themselves. Case example, Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, said he targeted sex workers because no one would miss them. To him, they weren't people, they were disposable. These distortions make killing logical in the killer's mind, stripping away guilt. Science shows that biology can play a role. Head injuries are common in offender histories, especially to the frontal lobe. Hormonal imbalances, like high testosterone, low serotonin, increase aggression. Genetics may predispose traits like impulsivity, though they don't guarantee violence. Biology doesn't create serial killers, but it can remove the brakes, making violent fantasies harder to resist. Society shapes the opportunity. Growing up in violent neighborhoods can normalize brutality. Jobs and mobility provide access to victims. Weak social monitoring makes it easier to hide crimes. Example, Harold Shipman, a British doctor, killed over 200 patients by injecting lethal doses. His position gave him unquestioned access and trust. His mask of respectability let him operate for decades. Escalation is also key. Most killers don't begin with murder. They progress through smaller acts, each one strengthening their skill and confidence. Perhaps the most terrifying truth, many serial killers live double lives. They are husbands, fathers, neighbors, employees. They mow the lawn, attend church, pay bills, all while hiding unspeakable crimes. Example, Dennis Rader was a church president and Boy Scout leader. His community saw him as a family man, even while he planned murders in secret. Example, John Wayne Gacy dressed as a clown for children's parties, all while burying dozens of bodies beneath his house. This mask is possible because psychopaths are skilled mimics. They fake emotions they don't feel, charming and manipulating those around them. They're all geniuses. Most are average or below in intelligence. They're all men. Women exist with different motives. They can't stop. Some take long cooling off periods. Serial killers are not born monsters. They are shaped by a convergence of factors: childhood trauma, psychopathy, fantasy, biology, environment, and opportunity. Most people with trauma or psychopathy or brain injuries never become killers. But when the wrong elements combine, the result can be catastrophic. Understanding why they kill is not about glamorizing them. It's about protecting society. It's about early intervention for abused children, treatment for personality disorders, and awareness that evil often wears a friendly face. Because in the end, the scariest truth is not that serial killers are monsters. It's that they look like us,